Hello, I'm Sam and you read the title. Basically, we take the review scores for every game in the series, average them up, and see what we get. For those reviews, I'm taking from Backloggd and HowLongToBeat. We are not including any mobile exclusives or Satellaview games. Ports and remakes will be combined with their original versions. All rankings will be out of 100. Starting off, we have 4 franchises that are so obscure I just can't include them. Namely, CalcioBit, Magnetica, Card Hero, and Picture Book Games are all lacking enough reviews to properly rank. Dead last on our ranking is the Mario Discovery series, with an average score of 31.6. This was a 90s series of educational games starring Mario characters. It's most noteworthy for Luigi's first protagonist role, and the Ouija meme. Second worst, we have Play Action Football. With an average score of 38, this is a series of 3 American football games for NES, Game Boy, and SNES. Next up, we have the Rob Games, average score 43.25. These puzzle games would focus on using the IRL peripheral Rob to move objects from one location to another. Despite its low scores, it is a rather important franchise. After the video game crash of 1983, Nintendo had to advertise the NES as a toy rather than a console, and Rob was just the robot to spearhead that. Average score of 45.75, 1-2 Switch is a series of party games for the Nintendo Switch system. I'll be real, I thought this franchise was going to do a lot better, but I also haven't played any of the games, so I guess they're just bad. Moving along, we have Steel Diver, score of 53. This is a duo of submarine simulators for the 3DS, noteworthy for having an item in Smash Bros. Nearly forgot about these games until script writing Game & Watch Collection. Not to be confused with Game & Watch Gallery, which will be later, Game & Watch Collection is a series of basic Game & Watch re-releases for the DS. Average score of 54.25. Hello Mario, score of 55, is a series of games for Switch and mobile. They're basically modern versions of that screen from Mario 64 where you can mess with Mario's face. Tied for 103rd place is 2 Pokemon spin-offs, each with a score of 57. Detective Pikachu, a duology of mystery games more famous for its movie adaptation, and Pokemon Trozei, 2 of those matching puzzle games. Average score of 57.417, Cruisin' is a series of arcade racing games. While made by Midway, the Cruisin' franchise is owned by Nintendo, so I'm including it. Score of 57.5 is NBA Courtside. The series of 3 licensed games for N64 and GameCube stars Kobe Bryant doing what Kobe Bryant does best. Committing sexual assault, I mean playing basketball. Our 100th best franchise is Pokemon Rumble. Score of 57.625, Pokemon Rumble is a series of action games starting on the Wii. While it might have started out as a minigame, Kirby Clash has had enough standalone titles to count as its own series. Score 59.25. Next is Balloon Fight, score of 59.375. If you didn't know, the NES Classic had a Game Boy sequel called Balloon Kid, which means it meets the bare minimum requirements of a franchise. The Mario Sports franchise comes in with a score of 61. This is not all Mario Sports related games, just the ones with multiple sports. The classic Mario vs. DK puzzle franchise comes in next with a score of 61.643. Look, I can't always have something interesting to say about each franchise. From one Donkey Kong spin-off to another, we have the DK Climber duology. Average score is 62.25. The Starfy franchise comes in with a score of 62.333. I had to cut the first and 4th game since I didn't have any reviews on HowLongToBeat, but even if we included the scores from Backloggd, the series would only move up 1 spot. Much like Kirby Clash, we have Kirby Fighters, which has turned into its own spin-off franchise. Average score is 62.75. Wave Race is a racing franchise produced by the legendary Shigeru Miyamoto. Unfortunately, Wave Race didn't take off like his other franchises, only having a score of 63.5. We once again have a tie, this time between Game & Watch Gallery and Labo. The Game & Watch Gallery is a series of remakes of Game & Watch games for the Game Boy and Game Boy Advance. Labo is a series of Nintendo Switch games where you make and use cardboard accessories for your Switch. Both scored 63.625. Mario & Sonic at the Olympic Games is next, score is 63.8. If you don't know, it's exactly what it says on the tin. Mario & Sonic at the Olympic Games. The Dylan's Rolling Western Tower Defense Trilogy for 3DS has a score of 63.833, barely beating out Mario & Sonic. Mario's puzzling Dr. Escapades earns him a score of 64.167. Insert 6-7 joke, haha. Big Brain Academy, the only Nintendo educational series to debut on the DS, earns a score of 64.333. Our first Wii series is here with Wii Play. Average score 64.75. The art style franchise, also known as Bit Generations, has a score of 65. These were a group of small experimental games for Game Boy Advance and DS. Our third tie is between puzzle series Polarium and Through, both scoring 65.25. Polarium involves flipping over tiles to match the colors, and Through has you maneuvering 3D blocks through various holes. One tie after another, we have the Pilot Wing Flight Simulators and Yoshi Platformers. The two of them each have an average of 65.333. Mario Tennis rolls in with a score of 65.389. Now that I think about it, I probably should have used rolls in as the transition for Dylan's Rolling Western. Too late now. We once again are tied up, this time between three franchises, each with a score of 65.5. Fluidity, a physics-based puzzle series for Wii and 3DS. Wii Fit, the exercise games for Wii and Wii U. And the Mario Artist franchise, the spiritual successor to Mario Paint for the N64 disk drive. Coming in at 75th place, Star Fox soars to a score of 65.833. Mario and his many parties have averaged a score of 66.306. Brain Age, the only Nintendo educational series to debut on the DS, earns a score of 66.643. Chibi Robo edges out Brain Age with a score of 66.7. Honestly pretty solid given how notoriously mishandled the franchise is. Mario Golf scores 67.071. Surprised to beat out Mario Tennis given the fact that IRL tennis is way better than IRL golf. Endless Ocean, the scuba diving trilogy, brings in a score of 67.167. Princess Peach's duo of games combined for a score of 67.25. The Donkey Konga trilogy of rhythm games averages 67.611. The Tingle spin-off franchise earned a score of 67.75. I did not include Tingle's Balloon Fight here, I included it with Balloon Fight. Ken Griffey Jr. and his licensed baseball game score a rating of 67.875. Much better than Kobe Bryant both morally and critically. Excite Bike, the racing franchise, scores a solid 67.9. Kid Icarus is next with a rating of 68. The SNES Battle Clash series comes with a score of 68.5. These were a duo of shooter games made to work with the Super Scope. Now maybe I'm barking up the wrong tree here, but Nintendog scored higher than I thought at 68.583. I mean, it's pretty rough around the edges, but I guess every dog has its day. Alright, I'll stop before anyone sends in the hound. Tied up once again, we have Fire Emblem Warriors and Pokemon Pinball sharing a score of 68.75. A lot higher than 99th place, we have the 99 Battle Royale games. Their average rating is less than 99 though, instead being 69. The NES Remix series for Wii U and 3DS averages 69.167. Look at that, we got both funny numbers in there. The Magical Vacation RPG series for GBA and DS is next, score of 69.25. Pretty good given that it's one of a few franchises I didn't know until starting this ranking. The Star Tropic duo of NES adventure games comes in with a solid 69.5. Unearthing a score of 69.667, we have the Fossil Fighter RPGs. Sliding in next, we see Mario Strikers at an average of 70. 1080-degree snowboarding turns up a score of 70.25. WarioWare comes up next with an average of 70.727. Closely following its younger brother, Wario Land scores 71.063. Starting the top 50, we have the Another Code series for DS and Switch. Average score is 71.125. Our oldest series here is next, that being Donkey Kong. Between the arcade games and platformers, DK scores a good 71.456. Pokemon Stadium averages 71.5 between its 2 and 64 titles. Wii Sports comes out swinging with a score of 71.917. Nintendo Switch Sports is included here since it's so obviously a continuation of the same idea. Tied with an average of 72, we have the Pushmo Puzzle series and the Wii Party games, just barely beating out Wii Sports for the title of Best Rated Wii series. The Puzzle League franchise, initially known as Tetris Attack in the West, brings along a score of 72.375. Once again tied, this time between Pokepark and Pokemon Snap. Both Poke spin-offs score 72.75. Tied for 40th place, we have the fast-paced racer F-Zero and the Paper Mario franchise, both sharing an average score of 72.917. Still tied up in ties, we have our second three-way. The Pokemon Ranger spin-off scores 73, same as Clubhouse Games and Custom Robo. Super Mario Maker is next with an average of 73.25. And tied again, this time between the Box Boy Puzzle Games and Advance Wars TRPGs, both at 73.375. Advance Wars also includes Famicom Wars and Battalion Wars, the only one missing is Game Boy Wars since none of the games had enough reviews. Famicom Detective Club has an average of 73.5 between its entries. Pokemon Mystery Dungeon is up with a score of 73.854. Should note, just like how I combined the review scores for remakes and the originals, multiple versions of one game are also combined. Beating out Fire Emblem Warriors by quite a bit, we have Hyrule Warriors, the average score of 73.889. Now we've come to a franchise that you could argue isn't Nintendo. Fatal Frame started as a Koei Tecmo franchise, but ever since the fourth game, it's been co-developed and co-published by Nintendo, even being Nintendo exclusive for a while. If you don't want to count it, don't count it, but regardless, it has a score of 74.194. The Mario and Luigi RPGs are next, score of 74.208. Kururin comes in with a score of 74.5. If you didn't know, the GBA game had 2 Japanese-only sequels, which were apparently good enough to beat out quite a few franchises. Everyone's favorite pink puffball is here, it's Kirby. The iconic platformer on average scored 74.519. Mario and Rabbids scores 74.75, which makes it the best rated Mario RPG series. It's also the only RPG where Luigi can dab. Remember when that was a thing, dabbing? It's still in Minecraft. Starting the top 25, we have 2 more Mario spin-offs. Mario Kart and Mario Baseball, each with a score of 75.25. Thus, both games share the title of Best Rated Mario Sports Series. If you want to count karting as a sport, that is. Picross is next, score of 75.424. This series holds the award of most games here at 50 titles. Passing Picross, we have Punch-Out! The boxing games on average scored 75.625. The world's highest grossing franchise Pokemon is up, score of 75.728. Not a shocker, but the main creature catcher beat out all of the Pokemon spin-offs. One half of Metroidvania's namesake, we have the Metroid franchise. Samus' series reeled in a score of 76.09. Now we've got Nintendo's main mascot, Super Mario, score of 76.593. A bit controversial, but I did include the first Yoshi's Island and Wario Land games since they are both labeled as part of the Super Mario series. Even if I removed them though, our mustachioed plumber's placement would remain the same. Fire Emblem is up next, score of 76.607. I'd like to take this opportunity to apologize for messing up in my last video. It turns out in the Japanese version of Fire Emblem Awakening, Lucina can marry her cousin, so there are actually 13 Smash Bros. Characters who can partake in incest. Beating his brother and claiming the title of Best Mario Spin-Off, we have Luigi's Mansion at 77.222. Pikmin sprouts up a score of 77.417. If it wasn't for Hey Pikmin, this franchise would have ranked 3rd best, but that game exists, so it's here instead. The Legend of Zelda franchise brings home a score of 78.044, making it the highest of Shigeru Miyamoto's brain babies. The Golden Sun RPGs shine bright with a score of 78.167. Tamagotchi Life is next, score of 78.625. I included the Miitopia spin-off in here, which is probably controversial, but it's my list, I do what I want. From one life sim to another, we have Animal Crossing. Average score 79. Just missing out on the top 10 is Kirby Air Ride, score of 79.25. At least it has the title of Best Nintendo Racing Franchise. Splatoon is next, average of 79.5 from its 4 titles. The Plat Fighter Juggernaut Super Smash Bros. Is up, average of 79.6. While including her series might be controversial, Bayonetta is here, score of 79.625. Nintendo helped publish every game except the first one, and with the exception of that first one, it's a Nintendo exclusive. In my opinion, it's a Nintendo franchise. The Style Savvy franchise cuts in, score of 79.75. They were a series of fashion games for DS and 3DS. Next up is the Sin and Punishment duology of on-rail shooters, score of 80.5. Rhythm Heaven boogies into 5th place, score of 82.2. Hotel Dusk and its sequel Last Window combine for a score of 82.25. Up next, we have the cult classic RPG series Earthbound. Also known as Mother, the trilogy averages 82.5. Elite Beat Agents averages a score of 83. This is another case of Japanese-only games making it a series instead of just one game. Finally, the best Nintendo franchise according to average review scores, drumroll please. Xenoblade Chronicles. Score of 84.375, no other franchise manages to beat out this quartet of RPGs. So, Xenoblade Chronicles is our winner, the best Nintendo franchise. Using review scores is an imperfect metric given that different games get different amounts of reviews and from different audiences. If someone is playing a Japanese-only game like Mother 3, they're likely already a fan of the series or genre. It's unfair to compare that to a series like Mario Kart where everybody and their Nintendog has played it. Hell, even former President Joe Biden has played Mario Kart. Also keep in mind, these rankings are very tight. Smash Bros is only about 8 points higher than Donkey Kong, yet the two are 40 rankings apart. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, check out my Smash Bros video. Yes, the one with incest in it. Either way, stay hydrated and I'll see you next time.